Hey everyone and welcome to CloudChamp. In this video, we look at important CKAD exam questions to help you pass your Certified Kubernetes Application Developer Certificate. Throughout this video, I will help you solve these most asked CKAD questions with the help of official Kubernetes documentation so that you can understand how to solve these questions in your real CKAD exam. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Alright, so I'm here on my computer screen and I have all these different important CKAD exam questions that you will definitely get in your real CKAD exam. If you want me to share this document, do comment down in the comment section and let's start with solving these one by one. The first question is about how developers occasionally need to submit the pods that run periodically. In this question, we are given a task to follow the steps below to create a pod that will start at a predetermined time and which runs to completion only once each time it is started. So we are supposed to create a YAML formatted Kubernetes manifest that runs the following shell command date. A date command is a command that will output the current date in the terminal. You can see here is the date command. And we are supposed to use a single busybox container. The command should run every minute and must complete within 22 seconds or be terminated by Kubernetes. So this command should be running every minute, which means this is a CronJob Kubernetes object. And the CronJob name, container name should both be hello. Create the resources number manifest and verify that the job executes successfully at least once. Okay, so we are supposed to create a CronJob that should run every minute. It should run till 22 seconds. It should have the image as busybox and the command running should be date. To solve this question, I'm going to be using the official Kubernetes documentation and you will be given access to this Kubernetes documentation even in your real exam. So you need to know how to solve this. So we are going to create a Kubernetes CronJob object, and to create this I'm going to be using the imperative command. So let's search for Kubernetes command reference commands and let's click on this one. I'm going to search for create CronJob. So we get the exact command that we are going to use. So this is the command. This command is used to create a CronJob that prints hello world every minute. Okay, we'll use this and change this to, we will use this and make sure that we run the date command, not the hello world command. So I'm going to change this command to date because the question is asking us to run the following shell command, which is date. Also, the CronJob name is hello, as we have mentioned here. The CronJob name and the container name should both be hello. It should run every minute. So this is the schedule set to every minute as well. The image is busybox. I'm going to change that to busybox in removing the version. And they're also asking us that this should complete within 22 seconds. We cannot do it here, so I'm going to create the manifest and then edit it manually to add this setting. So if I run this command, it will go ahead and create a CronJob, but I don't want to create it. So I'll say dry run equals to client, and I want this output as a YAML, so I'll say -o YAML. Okay, let's copy and paste this here in the Killer Coda playground. Throughout this video, I'll be using Killer Coda playground to try all these questions. We have also discussed different Kubernetes playgrounds in the previous video. If you haven't checked out, make sure to check it out. Let's paste this command and you can see this is the manifest that we get. So we have a manifest that is CronJob with the name hello, image as busybox, command as date, and it is running every minute. So let's put this inside a file. I'm going to name this file as cronjob.yaml. Okay, let's edit it. So everything is as we want in the question except that it should complete within 22 seconds. To enable this, we are going to go to the documentation again. Let's go to the jobs documentation. In this jobs documentation, if you search for active deadline seconds, this active deadline second applies to the duration of job no matter how many pods are created. Once the job reaches active deadlines, all of its running pods are terminated and the job status will be failed. This is what we want. We are going to set the active deadline seconds as 22 because the question is asking us to complete within 22 seconds. So we have to put this active deadline seconds in the spec for the job, which is here. So I'll put this in the same indentation level as container, paste and set the value as 22. Let's save this and apply it. So I'll say kapply-f, name of the file cronjob.yaml, and we have a CronJob with the hello name created. Now in this question, they're also asking us to create the resource and verify that the job executes successfully at least once. So I'm going to show you. First, let's run CKAD CronJob, and we see a CronJob with the name hello is created, which will be running every minute. Let's also see the jobs. So if I do get jobs, right now there are no jobs because 1 minute haven't been passed. So I'm going to wait for some time and then we'll see that the job has been executed at least once or not. Okay, let's try again. I'm going to say run the get jobs command again, and then now we have the job has been completed twice. You can also see get pods, and you have two pods here to check if the command date is actually executed by this cron job. We can run the command k logs, and then this pod we get the output of the date command, which means the cron job has been created and it has also been successfully executed. So this is how you solve the first question, which is to create a cron job that should run every minute and should be completed within 22 seconds. I hope you understood this. If you did, please like this video and let's move on to the next question. Moving on, the next question is, you are required to create a pod that requests a certain amount of CPU and memory. So it gets scheduled to a node that has those resources available. So we are supposed to create a pod with a certain amount of CPU and memory. So we can create a pod with using the imperative command, but to add CPU and memory, we need to manually edit it, same as we did in the previous question. So the pod should be named as nginx-resources and it should request 200 M of CPU, 1 GI memory for its container, and the pod should be using nginx image. Let's solve this. In the real exam, you will be asked to connect to different Kubernetes clusters. Make sure to run the SSH command in the question before you actually implement any question or start answering them. For now, we are using the killer coda, so it's okay. But remember that in the exam. So the pod name should be nginx-resources. I'm going to say krun nginx-resources. Also make sure to copy and paste instead of typing it yourself, because sometimes you might make a mistake that might cost you to lose the marks. So instead of typing it, you can simply copy and paste. The image should be nginx. So I'm going to add the image as nginx. I'm not actually creating this, so I'll say dry run -client and -o YAML. This is the manifest that we are going to be creating. In this, we need to add the resources specifying that the CPU should be this amount, memory should be this amount. So let's do that. I'm going to save this manifest inside a file. The file name is going to be pod.yaml. You can name this anything you want, but I do it with the question name. So let's say the question number is 1. I do it q1.yaml, q2.yaml, q3.yaml. So I don't have multiple files with the same name. Now let's press enter and then edit this. I'm going to say nanopod.yaml, and this is what we get. If you don't know how to specify the resources, you can obviously use the official documentation and you can search for pod resources. And you will be click on this resource management for pods, scroll down, and you will see a manifest file that should be using CPU and memory. Right now in the question, it's only asking you to request a minimum amount of CPU and memory. It's not asking you to limit it. So we are just going to use this part of the manifest, which is requesting the resources, not limiting them. But in the question, there might be a question where they might ask you to limit something. So make sure to read the question properly. So I'll use this and paste it here. Make sure the indentation is correct as well. So it should be in the same indentation. I'll remove this resources because it is now repeated. Change the value to what we want in the question. The question is asking you to put the 200 M CPU. So CPU is going to be 200, not 250. Put this here, and the memory is going to be 1 GI. So I'll put it 1 GI here. Okay, let's save this, and I'm going to run k apply -f pod.yaml. Now the pod is created. To confirm, you can see k get pods. And the name of the pod, which is nginx-resources -o YAML, and inside this we have a pod created with the resources as 200 M CPU, 1 GI memory. So this is how you solve the question where we need to specify the resources we want to allocate to a pod. I hope you understood this, and if you understood it, please make sure to like the video if you haven't. Moving on to the next question now. Alright, okay, so the next question is question number 3. You are tasked to create a config map and consume the config map in the pod using volume mount. This is a very, very important question, and I have got many issues solving these questions and understanding this. So make sure to properly understand this because this will be there in your exam 100%. So the question is asking you to create a config map and also use this config map as a volume mount inside a pod. So we are first going to create a config map and then create a pod, use that config map inside the pod. So create a config map named another config and containing the key value as key 4 value 3. Okay, let's create that using imperative command again. If you don't know about imperative command, if you don't know important Kubernetes command, always make sure to check out my previous videos. I've created a video about important kubectl commands. I've also created a video on imperative commands, which is going to help you a lot in these exams. So let's create a config map. To create it, I'll say kubectl create config map. Name of the config map is another config. Let's copy it and paste it here. We are going to be creating config map using the value present here. So key value pair, right? So it's going to be from literal equals to key 4 value 3. Key 4 equals to value 3. It's better to put this in a single quotation. So I'll put this here. And if you want to check, you can simply use the dry run equals to client instead of creating it, but I'm going to create it, and now we have a config map created. To confirm, we can see CKAD config map, and we will be able to see a config map created with the name as another config 6 seconds ago. Now, the next part of the question is to create a pod and then use this config map inside the pod. So let's create a pod named as nginx-configmap containing a single container using the nginx image and mount the key you just created into the pod under directory also a path. So we also need to define a path as well in the mount. So I'll say k run, name of the pod, image is going to be nginx, and we don't have any commands or anything to run. So let's go ahead and create a manifest for this. So I'll say dry run equals to client, and I want the output -o YAML so I can save it in the manifest. So this is the manifest files, and here we need to add a volume mount specifying that the volume mount should be config map. So I'll put this inside a forward file, name it as q3.yaml. Let's edit it, nano q3.yaml, and we need to add the config map as the mount mentioned inside this exam. So if you don't know how to do this, obviously you can use the documentation. So I'll say config map volume mount, and let's click on this first documentation. So in this documentation, I'm going to search for volume mount, and you can see this is how you can define a volume mount, specifying a path as well. You'll have to first create a volume as well. So I'll copy this here, the volumes and also the volume mount. So let's copy it and paste it here. Make sure to have the correct indentation level. So now this volume mount should be in the same level as images and resources. I'll edit that. Okay. And this should be in the same level as container, which is fine. So we are not going to change that. Let's remove this. The name of the config map we had was another config. So I'll put that here, another -config. Same name as here, another -config. And I'll also change this. So you can either put this here as you want. You can put whatever you want, but this name should be similar to what you put here in the volume mount as well. So I'll leave this as config volume, and the mount path is / also a path. So that's what I'm going to put here inside the mount path. Okay, let's save this and apply this file -f q3.yaml, and this is how we create a pod. Now this pod nginx config map -o YAML, and you can see in the volume mount we will have a config map mounted. So we have a config map mounted with the name as config volume. So this is how you will solve this question. So this is a very important question, and this has been coming in the CKAD exam very often. So make sure you understand how to solve this and also how to use the documentation in order if you have any issues or any questions. Now with that being said, let's move on to the next question. Alright, moving on, the next question we have in this document is your application's namespace requires a specific service account to be used. And the task is to update the app A deployment in the production namespace to run a restricted service account. The service account has already been created. So this is a question that I cannot do on Killer Coda because I don't have this deployment or I don't have this namespace. But I will show you how to tackle this question or how do you solve it, because this is a very important question that will be there in your exam as well. So to use a particular service account in your deployment, you can use the command k set service account. If you don't know how to use it, you can simply use the help command. So, we'll say kset service account dash dash help, and you can see an example here. So kubectl set service account deployment, the name of the deployment, and then the service account name. This is how easy it is to solve this question. You can either do it using the imperative command, or you can simply put the service account in the deployment manifest file as well. I usually do it this way, and I will recommend you to do this way rather than editing the manifest file. So it's kset service account, the name of the service, name of the deployment. So we'll say kset service account deployment, name of the deployment, that is app A, and then the service account name, which is restricted service. This is how easy it is to solve, and you can easily solve this and get marks in your CKAD exam. Alright, let's move on to the last question of this video. I have more questions to cover, so if you want me to create a part 2 of this CKAD exam questions, do let me know in the comment section, and let's move on to solve this last question. So question number 5 is to create a deployment named backend-deployment with nginx image that runs a web application on port 8081, having 4 replicas, specifying a readiness probe using the path healthz. So in this question, we have to create a deployment and specify the readiness probe. There are 3 probes in Kubernetes: readiness, liveness, and startup. After we create readiness probe, we also need to set the initial delay seconds to 8 and period seconds to 5. So let's solve this. We first create a deployment and then edit the manifest file to do this. So I'm going to go here in the killer coda, create a deployment using imperative commands. I'll say k create deployment. Name of the deployment is backend deployment, and the image is nginx. So I'll say nginx replicas is 4, and yeah, that's all we have for now. We also have a port which is 8081. So I'll say port is 8081. I don't want to actually create this, so I'll say dry run equals to client and -o YAML. Make sure to not add space here. So let's press enter, and we have this manifest ready. We are going to edit this manifest to add the readiness probe as asked in the question. So I'll put this inside a file, name it as q5.yaml. Okay. Now that this is done, let's see if the file is ready, and I'm going to edit that file using nano. So q5.yaml, you can use nano, vi, whatever you like. So we are going to put the readiness probe here inside the container spec, and you can obviously use the official documentation. This is a documentation for probes, and you can see this is how you define the readiness probe. So I'm going to copy this. So we are not using actually a command, we are using a path. So I'll be using a path instead of the command here. So you can see path. We can also use this example instead of liveness. I'm just going to make it readiness. So I'll copy this and paste it here. Make sure to have the indentation correct. This probe indentation should be same as the name and the image indentation. So I'll put this here in the same indentation. And instead of liveness, I want it to be readiness. So I'll make it readiness. Hopefully that, yes. So it is readiness, right? And then put this in the current indentation level as well, which is this. I don't want any headers, so I'm going to remove that. Initial delay seconds should be in the same indentation level as http get. So http get is here, that is correct. Port should be, and also period seconds. So we have the value of initial delay seconds as 8 and period seconds as 5. So I'm going to edit that as well. So period seconds are set to be 5 and initial delay seconds are set to be 8. The port is 8081. The path is /healthz as we have in the question. The path is /healthz. So this means this is how you will be adding your. Hopefully the indentation is correct, and I'm going to save this. Applied. If there's any issue or error, Kubernetes will tell us. So it is q5.yaml, and we have a deployment created. Let's check if the readiness is also implemented in this or not. So I'll be saying -o YAML, and you should be able to see readiness probe mentioned here, which means this is how you will be solving this. So I hope you have understood how to solve these important 5 questions that you will get in your CKAD exam. If you have any questions, any doubt, feel free to let me know. And if you want me to create another part of this video, do let me know in the comment section. If you're someone who's also going to apply for CKA exam, you can also watch my video on CKA exam questions, which is there on YouTube. The link is going to be there in the description, but you can also check it out. This is the video I'm talking about. So real CKA exam questions that I've solved using documentation. With that being said, that's all. I hope this video was informative. Thank you. Like this video and subscribe to CloudChamp for more such videos.